If you think D3 baseball isn't legit or that summerball is just for extra reps, you are dead wrong. Today, I'm sitting down with a guy who has built a D3 powerhouse, coached some of the best talent in the country, and won titles in the most competitive summer league in the world, the Cape. Jamie Shevchik has spent over 20 years proving that where you start doesn't define where you go. Today, we're talking about what really separates great players, why summer baseball can change your entire career, like it did for mine, and how to actually get on a coach's radar, whether it's college or the next level. If you're serious about baseball, then you need to lock in for this episode. It is an honor to welcome Coach Shev to the show, the head coach of the Keystone College Giants. Coach, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm living the dream. I am living the dream. It is another day. It is a nice day out, man, and college baseball is here. You guys are about to get going. You're leaving here for Florida, man. What is life like for you right now in anticipation of getting going? And what has it been like these past couple months getting ready?
Well, this year is a little unique, man. It wasn't your prototypical year at Keystone College. We are we've been in a position just like any other small school in the country where, we're one bad enrollment cycle away from, extinction. So we've gone through. This has been a very stressful year, man. We've possibly faced closure a few times over the last 12 months, but this is a resilient place, and we've got some people here that want to fight for this college, and we've been saved twice, and it looks like we're heading in the right direction right now. This place may never close after what we've gone through over the last couple months, but it was business as usual despite some of the distractions that we've gone through. We just finished up out in Pittsburgh at Washington and Jefferson. We opened up with 2 wins this past Friday, and getting ready to get out of here tonight, head to Florida for the next 10 days. So it's been a little bit of a unique year. We've lost a ton of players, graduated 10 in June, lost another 23 guys in the transfer portal not because of the program or the coaches. We lost them because of the uncertainty of where the college was headed. Lost a few more over Christmas break. But, I think our coaches busted their butts over the summer to bring in a quality recruiting class, and we're looking to hopefully ring in that 20th straight conference championship here this year.
I love it. So you have, like I said, I alluded to it here in the opening, man. You've built a Division III powerhouse. You have a dominant program, especially over these last 23 seasons at the helm, man. As a head coach, record 736 wins, 259 losses. That is absurd. You were just talking about your program on the brink of extinction, and having to save that, man. What's going on with that? Run us through that.
Well, we were going through some financial issues, back in June, and we were able to land a merger with another institution, an investor, right before the deadline hit. Just so happened that while we were going through this financial crisis, we were going through our 10-year review with Middle States, our accreditation company. So we had some things that we needed to kind of fix. Back in November, we got word that our accreditation was pulled, no longer in existence, which means our college was about to close in December. I've been here for 25 years. No more, I get one more paycheck, no more health insurance runs out at the end of the month, right before Christmas. And then again, by virtue of a miracle, we get, we get saved. We're allowed to appeal our decisions from the revocation of the accreditation. And, we just got word on Friday when we were out in Pittsburgh at W&J, we get an email from our president saying that there is no accreditation hearing coming up in March. We are good to go. So they withdrew some of the stipulations that they had on us. And now it's just, man, it's all about baseball now moving forward to try to rebuild this program and rebuild this institution.
Love it. Love it. Love it. In all great success stories, there are, adversities that have to be overcome. It's awesome to see you guys consistently performing amidst everything that is going on. So like I said, man, you've built Keystone into a dominant program over these last 23 seasons, man. What's been the biggest key to sustain success at the Division three level in your mind?
I think evolving, right? The one thing that the baseball program has done is we've evolved in how we recruit. We've changed everything. 23 years ago, we all recruited the same way. We went out, we watched high school baseball games, and we tried to find the best guys that were out there. Um, a few years ago, we kind of changed our recruiting methods a little bit, and we went more into the transfer portal. We were actually recruiting, the transfer portal before it was the transfer portal. The last 15 years, maybe 20 years was built on finding those guys that, maybe need a second chance out there, the D2 bounce back, the D1 bounce back. And I think now that we're in the Cape, I'm a manager in the Cape. My assistant coach, Ryan Smythe, who's in the office right behind me here, he's been with me at Keystone for 10 years. He's also a manager in the Cape with the Wareham Gateman. So you've got, two coaches from one small Division three program that are managers in the best summer league in the world. Of course, we're going to use that to our advantage, right? We're going to use that in the recruiting pitch. We're now recruiting kids to come here, whether it be for a year or two. And oh, by the way, while you're here, we could probably get you some exposure because of now the connections that we have with the Cape Cod League. We've had 3 pitchers this past year that pitched in the Cape from a Division three school. We may net usually that never happens. How many Division three guys get an opportunity to play in the best summer league in the world? But by coming here, being part of this group, having some people that have your back, we're going to work for you. And we're going to try to get you those opportunities. So you're going to pitch a lot when you're here. You're going to play a lot. You're here, and you're surrounded by people that are going to help advance your career into professional baseball by the advantages that our coaching staff has. Right? I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. Development is obviously at the forefront. I love that. You build development, you pair that with a successful program that is dominant. I mean, that's a recipe for success. That sounds like fun, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
We're in a weird age of college baseball right now, man. Like guys are transferring to 4 different schools, and why not embrace that as a coach, right? If somebody comes up to me on my current team because they're not playing and they want to jump in the transfer portal, I have to be okay with that because we're doing it on a regular basis, right? The other thing is I have to be okay with me taking a kid. Think about the connections that myself and my assistant have out of all the Division I schools in the country by being in the Cape Cod League, right? So
Yeah.
it's an easy pitch for me to also say, hey, why don't you come here for a year, develop? No, we've got 3 full-time assistant coaches at the Division III level. That's unheard of anywhere. We have more full-time coaches here than a lot of Division I programs do. So you can come here with all the experience that we have, develop for a year. We'll try to get you into a really good summer league or the Cape. And you know what? If you don't want to stay at that point, we will put you in the transfer portal ourselves and help you get to that Division I program that you want to go to. It's not the idealistic thing that we want to do from a recruiting standpoint at all, but it's also adjusting to where we're at in college baseball right now. And I think we have to embrace that.
For sure. So the game is changing, and so is how rosters are constructed, how you have to go about recruiting, like you were just talking about. When I was coming up, we talked about it a little bit off air before we pressed record, man. It was like, in my mind, it was D1 or die. I needed to play Division I baseball if I wanted to make it to the big leagues. That's just how it was kind of when I was coming up. That was the stipulation that I had around Division I baseball. That's what I was fed, and that's kind of what I believed. You have had 7 players drafted coming through Keystone under your tutelage, kind of proving that theory wrong. And if you are good enough, man, wherever you're playing at, you can be found. So
Absolutely.
when we're talking about that, what do you say to high school players that one day dream of making it to the professional ranks, who thinks D1 baseball is the only way to do that? What do you think about that?
If you're sitting across from me in my office right now and you're a recruit, it's basically it's the same pitch to everybody is what are your priorities? 5 years down the road, nobody really gives a shit if you're if you're sitting in a minor league dugout. Nobody cares what school you went to at that point, right? So I understand the part of wanting to play at the highest level. I was that same guy playing Division I baseball, playing in Omaha. But one of the reasons why I like the transfer so much is, hey, go out and kind of do what you want to do, chase that dream down. If it doesn't work out, as you become a junior or even toward a senior, your priorities change. 17-year-olds choose schools for different reasons. What does the campus look like? How big is the weight room? What does the field look like? Professional baseball on the horizon, playing in Omaha. But when you're a 20-year-old and you're a junior, the light at the end of the tunnel drastically changes. It's getting closer and closer to the end of your career. So your priorities as a baseball player changes, and we help those kids see what those priorities are, and they have a legitimate shot of coming here, winning a lot of baseball games, legitimately playing for a conference championship and beyond, having an opportunity possibly if you're good enough to get into a great summer league for exposure and play professional baseball. We've got some dudes here that are really damn good that should be pitching elsewhere. We had 2 of our players that did go into the portal, and we supported them this year. One of them committed to, Austin P, and then changed his commitment to come back for his senior year. Another kid who was lights out in summerball, pitched in the Cape, had offers from Missouri in the SEC, Northwestern, Cal Berkeley, and then chose to come back for his senior year. This never happens, right? Ever. You never see this. Everybody wants that 15 minutes of fame on Twitter of wearing the SEC shirt or the sweatshirt. But these kids were smart enough to know, why would I go somewhere else for 1 year? If my future is professional baseball, I'm not going to go pitch in the SEC. What if I get buried in the bullpen and I never get the exposure somewhere else? All the people that have been watching me pitch from a scouting standpoint are here. So let's keep them here and try to get drafted from the place that I'm already at.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I love that. Before we get into the summer ball piece and how important that is, what that can do for a collegiate baseball player, man, I just wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about that player development piece. So you have a long track record of winning and developing winning baseball players, man. You've won at every level that you've coached at: Keystone College, the NECBL, the Cape Cod League. Man, it's absolutely incredible. You've coached some really, really, really good players. And obviously you've seen the other end of the spectrum. You've experienced it all. Man, in your opinion, what is the biggest difference between a good player and one who becomes elite and just better than the rest?
I think being in summer baseball, especially in the Cape, I've learned to predict after a few weeks the guys that are going to get to the big leagues and the guys that are not. Based on, I mean, here's what summer baseball is it's not all as glorious as people think it is, right? Especially in the Cape. We've now gotten to the point where every kid has an advisor, every kid has an agent, every kid, their coaches don't want them to go up there because they're afraid they're going to jump in the portal. So we've now got to the point where the kids love the Twitter post of committed to the Cape Cod League. They love that part. They love the first couple of days when they get all the gear. The worst part about playing in the Cape, I feel like a lot of these kids, is actually playing the game of baseball. They're living in host families. They're playing on high school fields, elementary schools. They're not playing in the cathedrals of Florida and Mississippi State stadiums in front of 10,000 fans. So those kids hate playing baseball when the game actually starts. Some of them embrace it. A kid like Zach Neto from the Angels, I knew that he was going to be a big leaguer from within the first couple of weeks that he was with us, because he just had that it factor. He didn't care what field he was playing at. He didn't care about staying in a host family. He loved the game so much that you knew that this kid was going to get to the big leagues really damn quick. And then you can see the kids that where it's a struggle to get to the field every day. It's a struggle for early work. They don't like playing the game after they've gotten all the accolades, right? So I think I've been there long enough to have a really good prediction of, who that next big leaguer is going to be.
I love that. So you've coached in summer collegiate baseball for almost 2 decades, which is incredible. Have you seen one good summer change the trajectory of a player's career, like going from a nobody to an absolute dude or an absolute somebody? Have you seen that just in the snap of a summer?
100%.
Really?
100%. I mean, the guy that I just mentioned, right, Zach Neto, was a unrecruited kid out of Miami, Florida, ends up in Campbell, in North Carolina. One of the only schools that recruited him. if he didn't have, I believe this, that if he didn't have the Cape League, and a funny story about Zach, he wasn't even on the Brewster Whitecaps when we started the season. He was with another team and got released from that team the day before the season started because he wasn't a brand name. He wasn't a brand school. We pick him up after day one, and this kid goes out and has a monster summer with us and elevated him into the first round. There's a kid right there, and there's probably 24 stories that are like that throughout the course of the league and my team. But there's also guys as well that, on the flip side, they're the the talented kids that go out there and just can't handle the adversity part. And, those careers kind of fizzle out, right? Well, if you're a scout and you're watching in the Cape, everybody's really good. Everybody's going to probably get drafted. But what separates the first rounder from the 20th rounder? How do you handle yourself during those times of adversity when you're facing 94 every night and getting blown up every single night? Are you going to cut and run? Or are you going to stick it out, right? Those scouts want the guys that are going to stick it out and play hard and fight through it.
Amen. Amen. So you are obviously building your roster around some of the best talent in the country, man. You are running a successful program as well, doing that hand in hand, man. How are you evaluating these players for summer ball? Are you running a successful powerhouse Division III program and having to scout, recruit? Like how can somebody get on your radar and get this opportunity?
I mean, we use a bunch of different resources. We use everything that's at our disposal, right? We use Perfect Game. We're following summer leagues and tracking all the stats from the year before. We're looking at, Baseball America, what the All-American list might be. We're relying on advisors, agents, college coaches that we have really good relationships with. In my program, you're going to always see players from Wake Forest, right? You're always going to see players from Florida because we have very good relationships with those schools. So you're always going to see a certain group of guys from different schools on the Brewster Whitecaps in the summer, but there is a ton of resources. And then once the season starts right now, I mean, man, I'm trying to run a college baseball program right now in between watching, 35 Division I games on ESPN Plus or the SEC app every night.
Yeah, it's just full go, man. I get it. I get it. I get it. So if a player is hoping to one day, play in the Cape Cod League, man, it's about just continuing to show up, show out, try to get on that radar. You had mentioned the advisor agent relationship with these players in college baseball, man. It is something that I didn't learn about or hear about until I became draft eligible, like going into my junior year. Man, what is that relationship like? What is allowed to happen with like an agent and an advisor and a college baseball player? How does that impact how you guys go about your business, kind of like crafting up a roster?
Well, it's two different pieces. You've got the coaches piece, and then you've got the advisors piece too. And it all works different, right? In some programs, the coaches handle all of the recruiting for the Cape, right? If they feel like you're good enough to Cape, they're gonna make some phone calls and they're gonna throw your name out there. They're gonna put your hat in the ring. In some cases, at the opposite end of it, advisors do all of the recruiting for their player. You hope that they're communicating with the college coaches, but I mean, I've called a college coach before and said, "Hey, man, I want to get this kid that you have on your roster," and he's told me, "Well, we didn't even know that he's already committed to another team. He did it through his advisor." So it's a little bit of both. I think the best advisors, the agents out there, are the ones that have really good relationships with the college coaches. It's a fine line that they got to walk too, right? Because they have a job to do. They need to promote their players. They're going to promote their players by getting them to the Cape. But if they're sending duds to the Cape, then they're sure as shit ain't going to be a great advisor at some point, right? That shit's going to catch up to them. So, um, you know, I have a handful of advisors that I trust that have done me right in the past. They get a pass when they get one wrong here and there, but it's not a science, right? When you get up there, people struggle, people go off. I've seen first rounders jump into the 10th round. I've seen 15th rounders jump into the first round. But I think it's a healthy combination right now of talking to the coaches in college and the advisors that they have.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I appreciate you elaborating a little bit on that summer ball piece, the advisor agent piece, man. It's always something that I always not necessarily question, but I was interested in, never fully understood it. Obviously, as the game continues to evolve, that whole relationship dynamic is going to evolve with it. I love it. So we hit on the player development piece. We hit on the summer ball piece. I'd love to just end, man, with some general questions for you. Obviously, like I said, you've had a ton of success, a ton of experience over a bunch of seasons. Man, what is one mistake that you're seeing players make in the recruiting process that's holding them back that they might not even be conscious of?
A mistake that they're making in the recruiting process is, they're chasing something, right? And I think what they're chasing is that 15, 20 minutes of glory. And I kind of mentioned this earlier in my pieces. When that wears off and now you've got to step on campus, this is the worst time in our game, in the history of our game, for freshmen that are going into college. They're walking to locker rooms right now with grown adults, teams filled with 25-year-old men, 24-year-old men, right? So I think now more than ever, those young kids have to really do their research, right? Do you want to go to a place and sit around for the next 2 years? And I know the t-shirts look really cool when you come home from Christmas break, right? Um, is that what it's about? I think the kids that figure out it earlier in the career of going, because now listen, you can leave here after 2 years and go up. North Carolina had 3 Division III kids in their lineup on opening day, right? Why not come here and play for 2 years? Let me be your JUCO, right? Come here for 2 years and then move on. Do you really want to go somewhere where you're not going to play for a couple years, and then you're going to be that kid that's bouncing from school to school to school to school, and hopefully one of those schools or one of those bouncings lands you here? But I think you just got to really do your research, man. And if you want to play this game and you want to be really good, you've got to play the game to be good at it. Nobody ever got better by sitting on a bench and watching a game. So I just wish they did their homework a little bit more. And I think that it is starting to change a little bit. We are fielding phone calls now from kids that we would have never thought would have been interested in a Division III school in Pennsylvania. So I think that whole dynamic is starting to shift a little bit.
That's cool. That's cool to see. I love it. I'm fired up. We were able to highlight that, man. Love to see that. So wrapping up here, man, 23 seasons at the helm. If you could flash back to 2002, when you were going into that first season, and you could give a piece of advice to Coach Shev, who is just about to start this long head coaching journey, successful one at that, man. What are you giving and why?
I was your prototypical 24-year-old coach, right? Not far removed from college, right? Trying to relive the days of comparing myself to the athlete that I was coaching, right? The 25-year-old coaches are the ones that love to do the conditioning and watch kids throw up on the field, right? Because that's what they did, and it wasn't too far. And I probably did that too, right? I think earlier in my career, man, there was a couple years there in the beginning where I didn't think I was going to have a career in baseball. I was hot, I was fiery. Um, I didn't know how long it was going to last. But listen, man, I'm very humbled as a baseball coach. I thought that I knew everything back then. And these kids are smart. The one thing that I've learned over the years is there's high school coaches that can teach pitching better than me. There's high school coaches that can teach hitting better than me. Um, I feel like if, you know, I love my kids. I want to support my kids. I want to be there. They're very smart. They can read through the BS. And I've had coaches like that before. I'm sitting in a room and a player asks me a question, and the 25-year-old coach immediately rattles off the buzzwords, right? Try to be smarter than the kids that you're talking to. That's what every 25-year-old coach does. And then that same question asked to me as a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old now is, and I don't know that answer, it is, man, I don't know that answer. I can't answer that question without bullshitting you, but I know a lot of people in this game. Let me do some research. Let me ask some questions and let me get back to you. Kids respect that. But they don't respect the BS answer that has nothing to do with the question because you want to appear to be smarter than your players, right? And I think that's where the younger you are, to be humbled that you don't know everything about this game, the more receptive and the more respected you're going to be as you start growing through your college career as a coach. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense, man. That's awesome advice right there. Um, yeah, that's awesome stuff right there. I wasn't necessarily sure where I was going to fit in the whole baseball space. I really wanted to get into coaching, man. I wasn't necessarily sure I could give a better hitting lesson than the random guy down at DBAT down the street. You know what I mean? That didn't play baseball past middle school, but studies it at a high level and is obsessed with it. You know what I mean? Man, I love that.
I mean,
Makes sense to me.
we see it on social media, we see it on Twitter every day, right? I mean, it's everybody's trying to one up the next guy by coming up with, the drill or the buzzwords. And at some point, you've got to be able to connect with your players because that's where you're going to get the most out of them. And I think that's the one thing that I've been able to do in my career.
Huge, huge. So, Coach, I got one more question for you, man. What is the final piece of advice that you might have for players who want to play at a high level in college and beyond?
Do you really want to do it? Right? If you've got somebody close to you, or you've got somebody who's currently doing it, everybody wants to do it. But, again, this goes back to if you have a boy or you've got a friend or a teammate who's grinding through the minor leagues right now, is this something that you want to do? I see a lot of people, highly talented kids that get into the minor leagues and then just fizzle out because it just wasn't for them. Once that euphoria rolls out, and I just think if you want to play this game, you better love to play this game, love it. Not like it. You have to love to play this game every single day, and you've got to be able to grind it out to be the best that you possibly can. And you've got to do it for yourself, not your mother, not your father, not your coach. You've got to do it because you love this game and this is what you want to do for the future. And I think those kids that grasp that, they have a shot. They have a better chance than most.
Amen. I love that. Coach Shev, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for coming on here. Let me run you through the gauntlet of questions and just kind of blessing the audience just with some awesome insight, man, from a dominant coach. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good luck in Florida. I appreciate everybody tuning in here. It's been awesome. If you are waiting for an opportunity, this episode should have made one thing clear that opportunities aren't given, they are created. Whether it's summerball or college recruiting or making a name for yourself at the next level, the guys who make it are the ones who refuse to be overlooked. Coach Shev just laid out the blueprint. Excuse me, now it is on you to take action. Go out, bet on yourself, and prove you belong every single day. Nothing is given, everything's earned. Keep grinding, everybody. Appreciate you guys.